Hey, welcome to the very first example of finding resultant forces of several vectors. So in this example, we are given two force vectors that are acting on point A, vector P and vector Q, or force vector P and force vector Q. Now I've listed the magnitudes of these force vectors right here. P has a magnitude of 60 and Q has one of 25 newtons. And they are acting at very specific angles from this vertical line. So P is acting 20 degrees to the left, and Q is acting 35 degrees to the right of this vertical line. So in this example, we are going to find the resultant of P and Q using trigonometry. What does using trigonometry means? Well, we are going to be as accurate as possible when we're adding these vectors graphically. We'll have to find some angles. We'll have to use the law of sines and the law of cosines. And don't worry if you don't remember exactly what the law of sines and law of cosines is. We'll go over that once we get to that part. So how do we find the resultant of vectors? Well, we add them together and we get a resultant vector, which I will call R. So R is going to be the summation of vector P plus vector Q. And remember, anytime we deal with vectors, we're dealing with both a magnitude and a direction. So when we calculate R, not only do we need the magnitude of R, but we need to know in which orientation that resultant vector is acting in relative to some reference line or reference frame. To start off, we have this diagram that I've drawn here. Now, when you're solving these sorts of problems, it's very important that you try to draw things as accurately as possible. They don't have to be necessarily to scale, but they should be as accurate as you can draw them. And when I mean accurate, I mean the angles and the directions and the lengths of the vector should relatively be accurate to the actual values given in the problem. When I see these two vectors acting on point A, what I'm going to first do is I'm going to redraw this diagram, and I'm going to use the tail to tip method. So I'm going to take the tail of one vector and add it to the tip of another vector. And once I do that, then I can find this resultant vector. Now, it doesn't matter if you add the tail of Q to the tip of P or you add the tail of P to the tip of Q. They're both going to give you the same exact resultant vector. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the tail of Q to the tip of P. So let's go ahead and redraw this diagram and fill in some of the information such as the angles, and then we can start getting into some of the trigonometry and some of the more graphical stuff. Okay, so over here, what I just did was I just copied the vectors here into some arbitrary space here, and what I want to do is I want to take this vector right here, which is vector Q, and I want to take its tail and I want to add it to the tip of P. So it's going to look something like that. Now, what that allows us to do is that if this is point A, right here, this is point A, then the resultant is going to start at the tip or the tail of P, and it's going to end at the tip of Q. So again, this vector right here is vector P, and this vector right here is vector Q. And this new line that we've drawn, this is going to be our resultant vector. Now, if you look back at this diagram right here, you'll notice that I've drawn this reference line in the vertical, and that gives us the angles in which P and Q are acting in. So when we translate these angles into this diagram that we've drawn here, well, I think the first place to start is probably somewhere at point A. And point A, I'm going to draw that same vertical reference line here, because I know that this angle right here that P is making with this yellow vertical line, that is 20 degrees. However, that is not the angle between the resultant vector and P, which is this angle right here. So for the meantime, I'm going to label this angle right here, I'm going to label that alpha. And then if we come down to where P meets the tail of Q, in other words, this angle right here, I'm going to label this beta. And again, I'm just naming them variables so that we can reference these angles later on. And then calculate them and use those values to figure out what the resultant vector is. Now, where the resultant vector makes an angle with this q vector, so this angle right here, we can just call that, well, just gamma. Gamma is a fine name. And the strategy that you want to take in most of these types of problems when you're trying to solve for resultant forces using trigonometry is that you want to be, again, very accurate with how you draw the different vectors and how you draw and calculate the different angles, and then use geometry to figure out what you need to solve for. So I think a good place to start would be to figure out what this angle beta is. And the reason I say that is because if you look back at the original diagram, we already know the orientations in which P and Q are acting in. So if I know that P is making a 20 degrees angle from this vertical line right here, and if I were to draw another parallel vertical line here where angle beta is at, then I know that this line and this line are parallel. Well, what does that tell us? If those two lines are parallel, then this angle right here and this angle right here are equal and opposite angles. So in other words, if I were to draw a vertical line right there, and again, I know that this line and this line are parallel, then that tells me that this angle right here and this angle right here are equal and opposite. Well, we already know the angle for this right here, that's 20. So if that's 20, then this angle right here must also be 20. Okay, that's awesome. What about Q? What about this angle? Because we know this is, a straight line, so that's 180 degrees. So we can figure out what beta is if we just knew this angle and this angle. Well, this angle should be pretty easy because you have this vertical line and then angle Q is oriented to the right of that line, just like this vertical line here, and then angle Q or vector Q is oriented this way. So this is 35 degrees right there. So I'm just going to label that as 35 degrees. Awesome. So now I can calculate what beta is. And so beta, the angle beta, is going to be 180 degrees minus 20 degrees minus 35 degrees, and that gives us 125 degrees for beta. So great, we figured out what beta is. Now, why the heck did we do that? Why did we need to know what beta is? Well, we can use beta and we can use the law of cosines or the law of sines to figure out what the magnitude or the length of this side of this triangle is. And the length of this vector is the magnitude of r. Okay, so a very quick refresher on the law of cosines. If you remember from trigonometry, you'll have this, c squared, which is the side of the triangle that you're looking at, is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times the cosine of the angle between a and b, and we can just call that lowercase c. So this lowercase c, which is an angle, corresponds to the opposite corner where c is. So if this was c right here, the opposite corner would be this beta angle. Okay, cool. So how do we translate this into our diagram right there? Well, c squared is the side that we're looking at, which is going to be r. So the magnitude of r squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Well, if a was p, then I could say that the magnitude of p squared plus the magnitude of, that should be q squared minus 2 times the magnitude of p times the magnitude of q times the cosine of c. Well, c in this case is beta, right? This is the angle opposite to this side of the triangle, and we figured out what beta was. It was 125 degrees, so this would be cosine of 125 degrees. Now, this is pretty straightforward algebra. We just plug this into our calculators. P, in this case, the magnitude of P, would be 60 newtons, and then Q would be 25 newtons. So if we were to solve all this out, we would get the magnitude of R is equal to about 77.1086 newtons. So Awesome, we figured out what the magnitude of r is. Now we need to specify in which direction this resultant vector is acting. We need to know either the angle that it makes from this vertical line, which is this angle right here, or we could specify the angle that it makes with the horizontal, which is this angle right here. Or even, if you had this horizontal line here, you could specify this angle, but that's a lot of work. We'll do either this one or this one. So to start off, I think I'll calculate the angle that r makes with this vertical line right here, which would be this angle right here. And in order to do that, we're going to zoom in here. And we know that this vector right here is p, and we know that this angle right here is 20. We need to figure out what this angle alpha is, right? Because then we could take 20 minus alpha will give us this angle right there. And to label things so things are a little bit clearer, I will label that angle, I'll do that in pink. This is going to be, let's say, delta. So if you were to write this out in equation form, we could say that alpha plus delta is equal to 20 degrees, right? This total is 20 degrees, and then you have this delta and then this alpha angle here. Okay, so this is one of the equations that we'll be using, but as you know, there's two unknowns here and only one equation, so we need something else. Well, if we look back at this triangle, you could see that you have this alpha angle here, which is unknown, but then you know what q is, the magnitude or the length of q, and that was given in the problem. It was 25 newtons. So if we go back here, we know that Q is equal to 25 newtons, and of course P was 60 newtons. And what we can do here is we could use the law of sines to figure out what this angle alpha is. Now, a quick refresher on the law of sines. You have sine of some angle A over the opposite side of A is equal to the sine of angle B over the opposite side of B. And then you have sine of angle C over the opposite side of C. So you'll notice that in this equation, there's actually two equal signs here. And what that just means is that this term is equal to this term is equal to this term. So you can take any two of these terms, set them equal to each other, and solve for whatever variable that you are solving for. So you could take this term and set it equal to this term, or you could take this second one, set it equal to the first, whatever you want. So how does this equation translate to our problem? Well, if I said that the sine of alpha, and alpha is unknown right now, well, what is the opposite side to this corner alpha? Well, it's this thing right here, which is q. And q, or the magnitude of q, is equal to sine of angle b. Let's just say we can take beta as b. We can do beta over the opposite side of angle b, which is this resultant vector right here. So I can say that's r, the magnitude of r, and then finally sine of c. Sine of c here would be this last angle right here, which is gamma. So I could say sine of gamma over the opposite side of gamma. And the opposite side of this corner is this side right here, which is P. So that would be this magnitude of P. Okay, well, we know the magnitude of Q, we know the magnitude of R, and we know the magnitude of P. What we're trying to find is this alpha angle right here, and we just calculated what this angle beta was, right? It was 125 right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take these two terms from this law of sines and use that to figure out what alpha is. Okay, so I can rewrite that as sine of alpha, which is our unknown, over the magnitude of Q, which was 25 newtons, is equal to sine of beta, which was 125 degrees, divided by the magnitude of the resultant. The magnitude of the resultant was down here. It was the 77.1 newtons. So I can write that right here, 77.1 newtons. And if I do that, I can solve for alpha. And alpha ends up being about 15.4016 degrees. So there is angle alpha. And that only gives us part of the solution, right? Because we said that angle alpha plus angle delta gives us 20. And what we're trying to find is this delta angle right here, which is the angle that this resultant force R makes with this vertical. So now we can just take this angle alpha, plug it into this equation right here, and solve for delta. Well, that should be easy enough. I will do that in yellow. I'll say that angle alpha, which was 15.4, plus angle delta is equal to 20 degrees. And if I solve that out, I get delta is equal to 4.6 degrees. And I'm sorry if this is starting to get a little crowded. I'll try to move down a little bit. But anyway, that is what delta is. And so when we write our exam, or when we write the answer to our problem, what we can do is we can say that this resultant force R is equal to 77.1 newtons, and it's acting at an angle of 4.6 degrees from the vertical. And I usually like to draw these little diagrams right here so that people know what this angle is referring to. So this is the resultant vector, and it's making an angle of 4.6 degrees from this vertical line. And so that is it. That is our answer. Resultant force is 77.1 newtons, and it's acting 4.6 degrees to the left of that vertical line. Now, I did say, as we were kind of going through the problem, that you could find this angle right here that this resultant force makes with this vertical line, or you could very well find this angle right here, which it makes with this horizontal line. So let's do kind of like a part 2 right now. We could determine an alternative answer, and it'll be the same answer, right? So this angle right here, let's figure out what this angle right here is that R makes with the horizontal line this time. Okay, so for reference, I'm going to draw this horizontal line through A. And to be very clear, what we're trying to find is this angle right here. So now what's interesting is that this horizontal line and this vertical line right here make a 90-degree corner right there. And what we're trying to find is this angle right here that vector R makes with the horizontal line. Okay, so how do we figure out what this angle right here is? Well, you can see that this angle right here is really a sum of this alpha angle that we already know, plus this additional angle right here. So if we could figure out what this angle is, we would simply add that to alpha, and that would give us this pink angle right here. Okay, so then how do we handle this angle? How do we know what this angle is? Well, again, this is a straight vertical line. This is a straight horizontal line. And then you have the vector P, this 20-degree angle right here with this vertical line. Now you can kind of see that point A, and then you go down from here and then up the side of vector P makes a triangle where this right here is 90 degrees. And we already know this is 20 degrees. So we can easily calculate this because we know how many degrees are inside of a triangle. That's just 180 degrees. So what we can say is that we could take 180 degrees. We could subtract the 20 degrees from that triangle, which is this angle right here. And then we could subtract the 90-degree angle right here. So minus 90, and that gives us this angle right here. Okay, so what is that? 180 minus 20 minus 90, well, that is 70 degrees. So this angle right here, right there, is 70 degrees, which means that this angle right here is simply 70 plus alpha. So 70 plus alpha, which was 4.6 degrees, well, this gives us 85.4 degrees. So this, again, is the direction, the angle that this resultant force makes from this horizontal line. It's this angle right here. So alternatively, we could rewrite this answer where R, the magnitude, doesn't change. It's still 77.1 newtons, but this time when I draw the little depiction for the angle, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to draw the horizontal line, and I'm going to say that this angle right here was exactly what we calculated, and that was 85.4 degrees. And there you go. 2 ways of writing our answer for the resultant force, which is P plus Q.